Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's Planet Speak, right? Okay. So you'll notice in the background, let's see, fingers here and here, I have created a cool little thing. So I'm really digging it. I like this new program. We're gonna go back to the old PowerPoint because I lost track of time and I didn't have time to create a new one for this week. So we're gonna go back to the original sharing mode for this week. So welcome, Shan with Avaji the Moon, right? This week's Planet Speak, Planet Chat, Planet Talk, what they're doing out there in space and time. What's time? I find my there we go. Just needed to find my thing. So yeah, this week we got a full moon, man. Full moon. Who doesn't like full moon? Makes everybody crazy. All right. So this is actually the chart of the full moon. And you know, it's a nice one. Probably one of the nicer ones we're going to have because in, you know, the next full moon we have is the sun will be with Uranus and that'll be fun. Right? But you know, this full moon isn't without its issues either. But that's not the only thing going on this week. It is just one of several different things going on. So let me pull my notes up and we will talk about it. So we got the Mercury square in the Mars. That's going to be a fun one. Mercury will also be squaring the nodes. Venus will be cazimi the sun. Mars will be conjunct the north node. And then we have the Libra full moon to kind of round out the week. So it's going to be a really interesting week this week. So on the 23rd, we are going to have Mercury squaring Mars. And in all seriousness, the last time Mercury and Mars squared, it created a T-square with some other planets in my chart, and that wasn't fun. You know, I'm part of Astrology with Heather's cosmic community, and I shared that story. And someone said, I really feel bad about liking this, but that is a really interesting story. I pretty much destroyed my thumb with a knife, and it was bad. So I'm not really digging the whole Mercury square Mars thing, but this time at least it's not with Pluto. But that being said, too, they're also in different signs. So Mars and Gemini, you know, dispute of words, and Mercury in Pisces can lean to the more secretive or the more introspective. You know, Mercury in Pisces has a real lack of communicating concrete information in a way that is understandable. It's full of nuance, it's full of allegory, it's full of metaphor when it's here. So it's not the best place for Mercury to be. But Mars, you know, in Gemini can make communication a little more direct, a little more heated. The square to Mercury, you know, this can be arguments and disputes in general, you know, but this could be arguments and disputes, especially because Mercury will be squaring the North Node and Mars will be conjunct the North Node later in the week. This could be arguments and disputes or a real intense purpose, action-oriented kind of slant because this is what we want, this is where we're going, and we're hungry for whatever this North Node is for us in our charts. You know, and this could see people fired up in, you know, passionate discussion or, you know, passionate dispute and about what the right path is to take because, you know, Mars and Mercury are going to be making those aspects to the North Node. You know, Mars squares are never really easy, but they're frustrating, they cause passion, you know, all the things, right? That really kind of, when people say they light a fire under your butt, that's Mars squares right there. That's squares in general, because squares do have that more Mars action, friction, heat kind of energy to them. You know, it's definitely an interesting one. And so later, you know, on the 25th, we have Mercury squaring the nodes themselves. And, you know, for such a little planet, Mercury causes a lot of problems. You know, not really causes problems, but he gets in a lot of trouble. It gets in a lot of trouble. It's androgynous. So Mercury in square with the nodes is asking us to look at what needs to change. Intuitively, we will, you know, have to put the feelers out and have to really feel through what this intuitive Mercury is doing in Pisces. And, you know, it doesn't function its best here. It doesn't function very well in Cancer either. It's more emotional. In Scorpio, I mean, Scorpio is a Mars ruled. Scorpio is a little bit of a different beast when it comes to Mercury being in Scorpio. So I actually like Mercury in Scorpio. It's it's intense, but it's good. It's like get to the bottom of everything. So squaring the North Node, you know, in Gemini, especially because this is Mercury's home sign, we can see a mind switch needing to happen, as well as squaring the South Node that's ruled by Jupiter. This can see us having to evaluate what needs to be let go, what needs to be changed, what needs to be released, and start the process of that letting go as we move further into Aries season. We need to be aware that we shouldn't keep secrets, right? Because Mercury in Pisces can be secrets. And secrets do hurt people, you know, even white lies or lies of omission, they're still lies. So everyone would do well to remember that. But that doesn't mean that you need to air all your dirty laundry either, right? Like people just need to calm themselves down and, you know, understand that a lot of things are internal processes rather than an external force outward into the world. On the 26th, we do have Venus coming conjunct or cazimi the sun. Now in Aries, I'm actually really looking forward to this one. You know, this is a powerhouse conjunction with Venus, you know. Well, let's start with the sun. So the sun is definitely more forward. The sun is exalted in Aries. Okay. So what this means is that the sun functions at optimum levels. It's gung ho, it's ready to go, it's ready to take charge, it's ready to, you know, start something, it's ready to create something, it's ready for the crisis. This is like the first responder kind of energy, even military, police, things like that. Now, Venus here, you know, Venus is very direct. Venus is very much like, she's going to call it how it is. She's going to say what's on her mind. And that's all there is to it. So you better listen up, folks, right? Like that's Venus in Aries. And so this could be a strong desire to show up in relation to other people. This could be, you know, also being Aries. This could be our self-image or, you know, the image they're in. And you know, this conjunction does happen just a couple of days before the full moon in Libra. So we can definitely see something building in terms of relational energy, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to others, you know, and being as authentic really as we can be in relationship, and clarity about what you or your partner want would be good with this one. It, you know, it might get a little heated because we are approaching that full moon in just a couple of days after this conjunction. And then Mars even conjuncting the North Node itself, where we're going to have eclipses soon. You know, we want to get there. We want to be go, go, go. We want to do it. We want to do the thing and get it done and do the thing and do the thing, right? That's Mars. Mars wants to do. And, you know, we want to move towards what it is that Gemini represents for us each. And we can feel really fired up and really passionate about it. But at the same time, I think, you know, with that wide trine to Saturn, we need to really pick and choose the battles that we fight and pick and choose the things that we want to carry forward with us in this new kind of paradigm and reality that we're shifting through right now. And then, of course, we have the main event of the week, and that's the full moon. And this one will definitely be an interesting one. As you can see in the full moon chart that I pulled up, there's a kite formation. And so that's asking us to balance the opposition even more so, because there's so many trines, there's so many sextiles, you know what I mean? It's really highlighting the need for that balance. You know, the sun is in an exact degree conjunction with Chiron, with Venus, with the kite formations intermingled with this. You know, sometimes with this, people with kite formations, people don't notice the positive that is happening for them. The opposition that is happening is too intense, or it feels too intense or too stressful to be able to see the trees for the forest. You know, you can't really zoom out or in. Trees for the forest, forest for the trees. I say this all the time to everybody, friends, family, children. You know, you gotta be able to see the details, but you also got to be able to pull out and see the big picture too. So it's both. You got to be able to do both. You know, Mars is still in a tight conjunction also with the North Node. Saturn is in a really tight trine with both the Moon and the North Node. So this is definitely, you know, offering the very grounded, very diligent, very step-by-step kind of support for where it is you want to go with this full moon, or what it is that you want to complete, what it is you want to release into the world, what it is you want to finalize or let go of or wrap up as the moon wanes back down to the new moon in Aries later on. You know, but it will feel very disruptive, because this aspect that Uranus is making to both the sun and the moon is an uncomfortable one. There's something that maybe is shocking, something that's revealed, something that is you know, intense and liberating, right? Because Uranus is, you know, the rabble rouser and just very disruptive. And so the semi-sextile to the sun and the in conjunct to the moon is, you know, this is called a quincunx. Yeah, quincunx in conjunct semi-sextile. They're all intermingled because they're uncomfortable. It's out of the duplicity, it's out of the triplicity, it's out of the quadruplicity. It's the energy of Uranus does not understand what the sun and the moon are trying to accomplish, so it's just gonna throw shade probably, you know what I mean? Like that's, I'll say it that way. It's disharmonious and in constant flux. So feelings could be hurt, egos and relationships could take a hit, money could take a hit, you know, and money could have a lot to do with this full moon, with decisions that we're trying to make, or maybe even in spite of the money we're trying to make these decisions. So our finances can have a lot to do with this. So there is beautiful energy, there's iffy energy. You know, we can't discount the positive that's going to come out of this. And and in all seriousness, this could be the nicest full moon that we have all year. Because the next full moon, that's gonna be an interesting one. But we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. You know, so let's jump in to the signs. So this full moon for Aries rising is happening in your 7th house, right? This is a house of relationships. And so with the sun and Venus conjunct in your 1st house, this is you making decisions about relationships themselves. It could see you approaching a person. This could see you divesting of a person, right? But this is like the long haul kind of thing, because with all these trines and all these sextiles with all these different planets, you know, this full moon is definitely one that you need to balance yourself against other people. And there's also this kind of disruptive energy that's going to be free floating out there in kind of like the ethers. And you need to kind of rein it in and understand who you are in relationship and whether or not you have joy in that relationship, right? Because the sun rules our joy. The sun rules our expression of joy, right? It rules our expression of who we are. So with the sun and Venus, this can see, finances, this can see relationship, this can see business partners, contractual obligations. For Aries rising people specifically, I mean, this full moon is happening in your sign and in your relational houses. And with Venus in the mix, this rules your money and your relationships. So maybe you could be seeing a completion of some project that you've been working on in relationship with other people, and you're gonna reap the benefits, you're gonna reap the rewards, but it's not gonna be without, kind of weird disruptive energy, with that Uranus kind of in conjunct aspects to the sun and the moon. But there is relief with the trines and the sextiles. There's a lot of support here for what it is that you're accomplishing during this full moon. For Taurus and for Taurus rising people. Sorry, Taurus, hold on, I got a drink. All right, so for Taurus and for Taurus rising, this is happening in your 12th house and in your 6th house. And so with your chart ruler here behind the scenes, with the sun no less, this could see you really focusing on those self-sabotaging behaviors, self-sabotaging people even. I mean, because Venus, is relational. And this could see an ending, a completion, a finalization, especially with this full moon happening in your 6th house of, your daily routines of, depending on which form of astrology you like to use, the 6th house or the 7th house is open enemies. So this could definitely see, communicating the end of a friendship, the end of a relationship, the end of a you, because Venus rules you. This could see you also, maybe there's something going on behind the scenes at home too for you, and this is coming to completion or coming to a head. So there's a lot of really nice energy here. So there's more of an emphasis on balancing that full moon energy, on balancing what it is that you're doing on a daily basis versus wanting to be in that solitude, that seclusion, that place of quiet, right? So that's what's happening for Taurus rising people. And, this could also see maybe a secret relationship coming to fruition. Like maybe you've been working on something behind the scenes and now you're able to implement and do what you need to do and pull the trigger, because the 6th house is also where you show up in service to other people. So maybe there's something that you're doing on the internet with someone, because the moon does rule your 3rd house of communication, internet, things like that. So it could see you also showing up in service of someone else as well. So then for Gemini and for Gemini rising, this full moon is happening in your 11th house. So for Gemini risings, there's definitely been something going on with, I would say, if you're a Gemini rising anywhere from, 4 to 12 degrees, this full moon is going to impact you really nicely with the sextile and the trine to your ascendant and descendant. And with Mars here, this is going to see you really passionate, really fired up, really, ready to take on something that could have to do with 12th house institutions, working behind the scenes, hospitals, ashrams, rehabilitation centers, retreat centers, like any type of rehabilitation center, whether or not it's, what are they called? Like where you go for addiction, right? Like for recovery of addiction, like those places. But it's also where you go for solitude and seclusion. It's also, hidden enemies. So maybe the sun here is highlighting who your frenemies are for Gemini rising people, but it's going to also it's going to require a balance, because there's something here that is affecting, it's going to affect your money house, right? Because Cancer is ruled by the moon. It's your second house. Your second house ruler in your fifth. This is money on a creative endeavor, creative hobby. So there could be something maybe you've been working on behind the scenes, that maybe behind the scenes at home, that's going to offer fruition of some kind with money. And so, especially with Mars on the ascendant, this is something that you have initiated. So own it. Own it, Geminis. Own it. All right. So for Cancer and for Cancer rising, this full moon is happening in your 10th and in your 4th. So for Cancer rising people, this is really good, right? So this is a culmination, a fruition, a completion of something to do. And it's going to require balance of your social contracts with the people that you associate with by choice, of what it is that you're doing out in the world in career as well. And maybe there's something that's going on for you behind the scenes at home that's going to require balance. Maybe you're going to be required to put yourself out there. Maybe you've been hermiting and now you need to get out there and you need to communicate with people and you need to be with people and you need to do the things with the people. So that could be what's going on for some Cancer rising people. This could also be for Cancer rising people. This could definitely be a social contract of some kind. You know, being that, you know, Saturn is your 7th house ruler, it's in your 8th, and it's in a trine with Mars, you know, that's just this energy. This is a beautiful energy. So to me, what this says is that there's going to be a lot of aspects of your life that are going to be affected by what this full moon represents for you. But this full moon is happening in your 4th house. So there's a need to balance the need, want, and desire to hermit with the need, want, and desire to get out there in the world. And, you know, and be part of the social groups, and maybe being an activist for something that is going to better people's lives. Because with Venus rules your 11th house of activism. And, you know, there could be some disruptions. There could maybe even be some internet issues if, you know, you're online or whatever. But this is really like a very passionate energy for you about your drive, your ambition, your goals out in the world. And so, you know, you might take what you've been doing behind the scenes and really put it out into the limelight. Cancer. And for Leo, my Leo peeps, this chart set up for you for this full moon. No, it's just where I am. That's what it looks like. So this full moon is happening in your 9th and in your 3rd. So these are communication houses. These are teaching houses. These are especially the 3rd. So there's maybe something that you're communicating with over the internet. Maybe you're teaching something. Maybe there's something coming to completion, because there's something to do with your career here, Leo, that requires some type of communication. Maybe you need to go back to basics with something that you've been working on, and you need to either learn something at a deeper level, or you need to teach something at a deeper level. Maybe, you know, there's something, some type of, you know, communication that's going to come in, that's going to require you to either take an unexpected, because of, I'm saying this because of the Uranus up in the 10th, there's going to be something that's going to require you to take an unexpected trip real quick, that's going to completely disrupt what it is that, you know, you're trying to do. And you're going to have to really try to balance this energy of communicating, I mean, communicating, I would say maybe some information that you have kept private until now. And it has to do with your career, but there's something that is maybe really uncomfortable in the conversation that you're going to have, because Venus, not only does Venus rule your career sector, it also rules your communication. So, you know, with the sun and Venus, this could also be you coming together with someone to help them overcome some type, and communicating with them and having to overcome some type of addiction or some type of hmm, some type of issue that they have, but it could be, you know, behind closed doors. But yeah, there's definitely a communication coming in, or you communicating something that is going to affect what it is that you're doing out in the world and how you communicate with other people. And it's going to be really uncomfortable, especially with that Chiron right there with the sun and with Venus. So there's definitely something there's definitely some shadows that you're going to have to overcome with this full moon, I would say, definitely, and some, you know, maybe some guilt, some shame. You know, Chiron is really uncomfortable. I notice I watch transits, so anytime there's a transit to Chiron in my chart, like I can feel it. I feel very uncomfortable with what's going on. So this is no different than that, you know, with the sun and Venus being conjunct. I mean, this is three different houses, and then you have the fourth house of, you know, home, family, the moon, right? Your 12th house ruler of being in opposition to all of that. So there could definitely be some communication um, that either you are doing or that someone else is doing to you, and it's going to be really uncomfortable. Now that I've spent a long time on that, let's go to Virgo. So Virgo rising, this full moon is happening in your second and in your eighth house. And so there's a need to balance your self, your money, your materials, your possessions against someone else's. So maybe there's a conversation that needs to happen. Maybe there's an organization or a group that there's like a payout or something that needs to come through or has to come through. And, you know, maybe there is also a yeah, there's a communication that could possibly be coming in that is uncomfortable, or maybe there's something surrounding either your debt, a partner's debt, or money that's coming to you from either insurance. um, could be something that you're known for as well. Like it's balancing this opposition against all of this other beautiful energy, as well as the disruptive energy of Uranus up in your ninth. You know, maybe you're working really hard and you're not able to be home a lot with your family, and you're really working on making that money to catapult yourself into that other, you know, the next level of what it is that you're doing out in the world. And maybe there's a need to balance that against losing. There could be a loss here too. Like there could be a loss of money, a loss of partnership, um you know, or a um completion fulfillment, and like a reevaluation of your money, and you know, where your money meets other people's money, or money coming into you from other people. That could definitely be it for Virgo rising people. You know, there's that Uranus energy that's going to be really disruptive. So we're on Virgo. So let's go to Libra and Libra rising. So for Libra and Libra rising people, this full moon is happening in your sign. So you are being highlighted, Libra. So highlighting you, Libra, and your relationships. So this could be a culmination, a fruition, a completion of something that you are doing in relation to other people. This could be, a culmination, fruition, or completion to something, you completing something to do with your career or what it is that you're known for out in the world as well. And this is going to see you working with maybe partners and social groups, friends. This could also see you taking a loan out or getting that loan that you wanted for maybe the home purchase that you've been working on, or maybe the business purchase that you've been working on, or, it could be paying off debts as well. But this is definitely you taking action in partnership, because this is your chart ruler in the 7th house. This is you focusing on your relationships, you focusing on the contracts, negotiations, and agreements. And it has to do with your friends groups, your friends, groups and organizations that you are associated with, as well as your career and what it is that you're known for. So maybe there's something that's coming to an end or something that's being completed for you, a project of some kind that's going to yield really good results, right? Because we have all this beautiful energy, but it's not going to be without conflict. It's not going to be without the need to balance. You're a Libra, you know how to balance things anyway. But with your chart ruler in Aries in your opposite sign, this could definitely see you really fired up and really passionate about something. So get it, Libra. And for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, this full moon is happening for you in your 12th and in your 6th. So there's been a focus on, as the sun moves through Aries, there's been a focus on your day-to-day. There's been a focus on your health. There's been a focus on, what it is that you're doing on the daily grind and how it is that you're showing up in service for your partnerships, for your contractual obligations, for the people that you have long withstanding contracts for. And this full moon in your 12th house is kind of highlighting the need to balance what it is that you're focused on doing on a daily basis and pulling yourself out and resting, right? Because this is also like a fruition, a completion, a culmination, it's also, full moons can be reevaluations as well, which I just learned, by the way. I always thought they were completions and endings and culmination points, but it's also reevaluating, because then you have the waning all the way down to the new moon, right? So it's also a letting go process of completion, but it's also a reevaluation of where it is that you are going from whence you came. Having this full moon in your 12th house, this is having to balance the day-to-day against what it is that you, the rest and reprieve that you truly need to feed your soul, right? You need, especially with this full moon, you need to learn to rest a little bit. And I say learn to rest because the moon rules your 9th house of higher education and your worldview. So maybe you need to come back into balance of your career, what it is, especially because the sun does rule your 10th house as well. It's what you're doing in career, what you're doing in partnership with other people, and having to take that rest and that reprieve, or it's working behind the scenes, the culmination and fruition of what it is that you have been doing out in the world, and it's going to yield those results. It's a completion. And so then when we come into the new moon conjunct Uranus in a few weeks, that's gonna be interesting. Or the full moon, I'm sorry, the next full moon that we have after the new moon in Aries is going to be an interesting one for sure. So that's for Scorpio. For Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising, this full moon is happening in your 5th house and in your, let's see, where are we here? Sagittarius, where are you? 5th and 11th. So this is happening, this full moon is happening with, it's happening in your 5th house, your joy, your fun, your play, the things that you love to do, just because you love to do them. And with the sun here highlighting this, like you've really been in like creator mode, right? Because the 5th house is a very creative house for you. And with Mars as the ruler, you know, in your 7th house, this could see you working in partnership on a creative project, but this is also seeing you maybe show up in service to other people, or maybe you are deciding that, you know, the job that you're working on, the job, right? Because the 6th house is your job. You know, that it's going to be interesting, especially because Chiron is here, but this could be working on, you know, I mean, Cancer, the moon rules your 8th house. So, you know, this could be working with occult practices. This could be see you releasing something that has to do with a creative occult practice that you do to with your friends groups, with, you know, with what it is, the people that you associate with from that occult group. You know, and yeah. So this full moon is asking you to balance your creative self against the group, right? So against the people that you associate with by choice, against, you know, maybe your internet friends. Maybe there's something that you've been working on and it's getting to the point where it's kind of uncomfortable to try to balance all the things, because full moons are about balance. So there's a need to come into balance with what it is that you are striving for, working for in that 5th house. But I mean, this is beautiful energy because it's trine and sextile to your ascendant and your descendant. So this is definitely you taking the initiative and doing the things that you need to do, and maybe even, you know, communicating about it and communicating about the things that are difficult when it comes to birthing a new creative process. That could be something too for some Saggies. Yeah, I mean, there's just a need to balance, you know, yourself against the group with this. And it's got a lot of beautiful energy, but it's really highlighting that opposition. So there's definitely that need for balancing, especially with Libra, right? Libra's all about balance and reciprocity. So it's also about reciprocity as well. So that's for Saggies. For Capricorn rising people, this full moon is happening in your 10th and in your 4th. And so what this means is that there's a need to balance what it is that you're doing behind the scenes at home with your children, with a creative project. You know, maybe because Venus rules your 5th house of creativity, maybe there's something to do with your kids that needs to be finalized, because this is also like your 7th house ruler up in your 10th. Maybe this is the finalization of a home purchase for you, or maybe this is the finalization, or maybe a contract is reached in terms of what it is that you're doing out in the world. There's a need to balance home and work. There's a need to balance home and career, right? Like your public reputation, your withstanding in the public eye, and what it is that you come home to. There's a need to balance that energy, and that's really being highlighted with all these sextiles, all these trines, all this beautiful energy. It kind of creates that more focused on what needs to be balanced, what needs to be brought back into balance because something is shifted and it's out of balance. So there is that for Capricorn rising people. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this full moon happening in Libra is happening in your 9th and in your 3rd. So there's a need for you, Aquarius rising people, to balance, to maybe, I mean, for some Aquarius rising people, this could be the culmination and completion of meeting a contractual partner online, right? Because 3rd house is online, 7th house ruler in the 3rd as a transit, and or signing a contract to purchase a new home. I mean, that could be what some Aquarius rising people are doing, because with Venus as the ruler of the 4th, the sun is the ruler of the 7th, and the moon, the ruler, or the full moon in your 9th house. This could be a culmination, completion of purchasing a home. And it also could be a health crisis as well, because the moon does rule your 6th house of health. This could be maybe you completing a contract of where it is that you showed up, not current tense, past tense, where you showed up in service to someone or to something. And so now that's completed, it's finalized, it's letting it go, it's reevaluating what's coming next. But there could definitely be some really uncomfortable communication that's coming in about something to do with your home, something to do with your property, or something to do with your relationships, your one-to-one, your marriage partner, your business contracts, and there's like a difficult conversation that's happening that's being really highlighted by all of this really nice energy. So there's definitely a need to balance where it is that you're showing up in service versus what it is that you're doing, how it is that you're communicating and what it is that you're doing, if that makes sense. So for Pisces and for Pisces rising, this full moon is happening in your 2nd and in your 8th. So there's a need to balance. I mean, your focus is on your bank, right? Your focus is on your money. Your focus is on communicating what it is that you need for your sense of self, your sense of self-worth, because the sun and Venus are together, and Venus rules your 3rd house of communication. So this is a conversation that needs to happen, and it can be really uncomfortable because of Chiron being in the mix. But this is definitely you maybe talking about some type of, because Libra is your 8th house, like this to me, some Pisces rising people are probably going to be having really uncomfortable conversations about mental health and the state of mental health, right? Because 3rd house is communication, it's the mind. Venus rules that for you. Venus also rules your 8th house of, transformation, trauma, uncomfortableness. So for some Pisces rising people, this could be you communicating about a trauma that happened to you, or this could be you communicating about a trauma that affects people on a daily basis, and putting it having that uncomfortable conversation also. Maybe there's a culmination, completion, fruition, or a letting go that needs to happen in terms of someone else's money, because, or for some Pisces rising, this could see, you feeling really uncomfortable about a decision that was made by one of your children, and you are speaking to that because it's really mentally traumatic for you, in some way, shape, or form. That's for some Pisces people, not all, but some. But then there's also, having to balance, your needs, wants, and desires in that 2nd house against what other people need, want, and desire in that 8th house, and like power struggles and control issues and things like that. So with all the nice energy that's happening with the trines and the sextiles and all that, you see all the blue is good energy. The red is the balance point, is where it needs to be in balance and what needs to come back into balance. Maybe you've been really hyper focused since the sun and Venus moved into Aries on your bank, on your money, on your wants, your desires, and you need to balance that now against the other people in your life. It could be really that simple. This could also see culmination, fruition, or completion of some type of esoteric project that you've been working on in partnership with someone else as well, behind the scenes. that's a possibility too for some Pisces rising people. So that is the full moon forecast. And I really do like this new program. I really like having the visuals. So I hope you like this. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment how this full moon has affected you or is affecting you coming up right in the week of. And I will see you next week for more Planet Speak. All right. Have a good one.